Hello and thanks for joining us here on France 24 for this special edition of France in Focus, dedicated entirely to French gastronomy. This is against the backdrop of the first ever edition of Taste of Paris, an event which has drawn some of the city's top chefs who all have one shared goal, namely to let you discover the incredible and varied flavours of French cuisine. Well, let's start by taking you on a little look around.
Mélange de saveurs et de textures fabuleux. Faut le déguster froid comme ça.
C'est diva.
For anyone who's ever been to France, it's unlikely that they've been able to resist the temptations of the country's world-famous pâtisserie, an éclair, or perhaps a bit of millefeuille. And these are some of the world's top examples of those pâtisseries. That's because they're fresh and they've been made before our very eyes. But as we're about to see in this next report, that isn't always the case.
Churned out on these production lines, a never-ending chain of eclairs. A recipe which never changes an ounce. The chef behind it all, this computer. The eclairs are fired out at a rate of 8,000 per hour, costing 50 cents each to make. Once complete, they're on their way to stock supermarket aisles. So where does the traditional trade of the pastry cook stand in all of this? Nicolas Vugros begins his day before sunrise.
Oh, bah c'est parti. Allez.
Every morning, he and his apprentices, Tony and Morgane, make puffs, cream, mini tarts and eclairs. All is handmade, every step of the way. What do you like about the job?
This is what's amazing. The shape changes a little bit each time. You have to stroke them, you have to feel them. They're alive. It's a case of coaxing them to do something.
However, recently Nicolas has been having trouble making a living from his laborious craft. The basic ingredients aren't expensive, but his biggest costs are his employees' salaries. A single eclair costs €1.45 to produce and is sold at €2.40. It means Nicolas earns less than €1 per sale. Not enough to keep on both of his apprentices.
It's a huge disappointment.
Why is that?
The future's them, not me. When I see how things are right now, I just don't have the choice. Unfortunately, it's either their salaries or paying the suppliers, so I don't have a choice.
With traditional methods not bringing up the profits, others are opting for a middle ground. Grégory Fauret's bakery is doing booming business in Bordeaux, but his techniques are a long way from Nicolas' careful craft. Grégory builds his pâtisserie from a sort of kit. All the parts arrive ready-made, and all that's left for the staff to do is stick them together. So, are you qualified as a pastry cook?
Oh no, not at all. I actually trained as a beautician.
For some of the cakes, Grégory's opted for an even easier option. The chocolate eclairs arrive in frozen multi-packs.
So if we want to sell them tomorrow, we'll defrost them today in the cold storage room.
In the shop, it's a different story. As the smell of fresh loaves baking wafts from behind the counter, he allows customers to imagine a similar process behind his other products. And it seems to be working.
They certainly sell good pastries. So yes, I think they're made here directly, like the bread.
A success that translates into profits. Here an eclair costs just €1.90, and Grégory bought them at 70 cents a piece.
France is home to some of the best restaurants on the planet, but next time you go out for lunch or dinner, spare a thought for the people working in the kitchen, where life can be extremely stressful, especially during the peak times of day. Well, in other establishments, it's even worse than that. There's a toxic environment, and bullying and intimidation are commonplace.
Peak time in this French restaurant. Twice a day, chefs and cooks are feeling the pressure. In the kitchen, everyone's rushing to please the customers. A stress level that's taboo to talk about, even though things often turn ugly. Francesca says she's gone through hell. She once dreamed of becoming a chef, but she's now thrown in the towel. At 18 years old, Francesca joined a top French gastronomy course. But during her internship in a Michelin-starred restaurant, her boss insulted her, saying she was incompetent. And one day, things boiled over.
He asked me, "Is that how you peel potatoes?" I said, "Yes." And then he slapped me in the face. For a while, I believed he destroyed my life. I didn't want to do anything. I sank into a severe depression.
That kind of abuse seems to occur frequently in restaurants. This journalist has investigated the issue. A few months ago, he revealed that a kitchen assistant had his arms burnt by his superior in a famous restaurant in Paris. The sous chef was fired. His victim chose not to press charges against him.
People are scared to be recognized, and when you talk about things like that, you destroy the myth. You destroy the code of silence, and when that happens, you know you're going to get blacklisted, and that you'll never find a job in prestigious restaurants with the few chefs who rule that industry.
In his restaurant, Éric Guérin wants to maintain a good relationship with the cooks. The chef has just hired a new assistant, Yannick, who wanted to change career 5 months ago.
I was the victim of psychological violence. It really affected me. I couldn't work properly. I was scared.
The reason why the chef sympathizes is because he himself was mistreated 20 years ago.
I got burnt here, only because I put too much water in the pot to cook some mushrooms. I was 18. The chef took my hand and he did this. And he said, "You'll never put too much water in the mushrooms." When I became a chef in my hometown, I realized I became violent too. I used to throw plates at my pastry chef right in the middle of the service. The plates flew into the walls, and then I thought, "What are you doing?" Nicolas, can you put some music on, please?
For him, music is a good recipe to ease tensions in the kitchen. His restaurant has recently earned a Michelin star.
I just think that well, with the Eiffel Tower just behind me, we're just across the river now from the Champs-Élysées, and we're going to go and visit the restaurant David Toutain, which has only been open for 2 years, and yet it's already got 1 Michelin star. But what does that actually mean? And how is it that a French tire company has had so much influence over our choice of restaurants for more than a century? Let's go and meet someone who can tell us more. Hello, Claire. Oh, very nice to meet you. Well, it's very nice to meet you, Claire Dorlan-Clausel. You're the Communications Director for Michelin, and you're also a member of the Michelin Executive Committee. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us. First of all, tell us how the process works of awarding these famous Michelin stars to restaurants.
First of all, the Michelin Guide is the unique guide in the world to have some independent inspectors. What does it mean? It means that the inspectors are trained for knowing good restaurants and good cooking, and that they are paid by Michelin. They pay their bill, and they are independent. So it's the unique guide in the world to have this kind of methodology.
This is one source of information, the Michelin Guide, but it's not the only source, is it? I can go online, I can look at TripAdvisor, I can look at Frommer's, I can look at Zagat, I can look at all sorts of other opinions about restaurants, where I should be eating my lunch or dinner. So how is Michelin staying ahead of the game?
It's important for our clients to have this very specific opinion. It's not your or my opinions. And of course, opinion of clients are also important. But it's important to be guided by people that know the art of cooking.
But does that then mean that the tastes and the influences of the Michelin guide are therefore necessarily very French influences?
No. In fact, when you look after the selection in the countries where the Michelin guide is established, you can see that that you have a lot of tests from all over the world. And through this selection that is made by people that know about the art of cooking, we really help the cooking of the world, all types of cooking, to be better. And this is important. And I think that the role of the Michelin Guide is this one.
And just lastly, do people see you walking into a restaurant owners in particular, and start panicking?
No, because chefs know me and can recognize me. They are not panicking because they know that I am not the one judging the food, and I am not an inspector. No, and they like to exchange with me about gastronomy, about food, about just that.
Well, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us. Claire Dorlan-Clausel, the Communications Director for Michelin. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
All right, so
Well, we're just putting the finishing touches on a plate that we've cooked up for you here. Asparagus with whelks and a little bit of verveine sauce. That's where we're going to leave you for this week's special edition of France in Focus. Thank you for watching. Do stay tuned to France 24.